So, welcome back to ProBuild 360 TV and welcome back to the Onsite podcast. Our guest today is Sam Meeten from Elevate. Sam, why don't you introduce yourself and your role?
Thanks. I'm Sam Meeten, Elevate Property Group. Been with the company for over 2.5 years now. So hopefully firmly ingrained as a land director. So buying the land and assessing whether the sites are viable or otherwise, really, which is a game in itself, as I'm sure we'll come on to.
Yes.
But viability studies is ultimately what I'm embroiled in day in, day out.
I've seen your spreadsheets.
Yeah, I know. They're a dark art, aren't
Yes, they are. Yeah, we got Dad a mug that says "I love spreadsheets."
Does he?
Yes, he does very much. And a little bit about Elevate, sort of plug the company for us. And,
A fantastic company going from strength to strength. Now in our 12th year as a company.
Very similar to us. I think we're 12th or 13th year. Yeah.
It soon flies by,
it does.
if I'm honest with you. And I think we're fast approaching 1,200 delivered units.
Wow, that's fantastic.
In that time. So, and from there, we've got another 500-600 units in planning.
Fantastic. Well, what I thought I'd do is run through a little bit of a structure so that, because the people watching this will be watching because we're both developers, and whether they're trying to become a developer or they're extremely seasoned, weather-beaten people longer.
I'm getting there.
Yeah, longer in the tooth than us. They want to hear about development. So
very quickly, you've got to get to the nub of a site and whether it's got the viability to go much further. So one landed on my desk this morning, which we have looked at previously. Quickly printed off the latest schedule of accommodation and ran that through one of my appraisals. You get so good at them, it only takes 5 minutes to look through. And very quickly you can see where the risk errors are, whether that's the build cost or the resale value, or it might be the SIL or the Section 106 contributions or affordable. So very quickly you're going, right, that's being stressed here. Yeah. Is that realistic? Yes, it is. Or is it too low, or does it need to be higher, in which case it kills a site straight away. So sometimes you just have to be really brutal and stick to your guns.
Have you got a checklist, or is it because...
Yeah, there is to a degree, but I think certainly when it's first on your desk, you've just got to do the belt and braces. What's the resale value? What's my build cost? What's my planning costs, or what's my cost to get it deliverable?
Yeah, do those basics.
And then if you're there or thereabouts, then you can start delving into what the other risks are. So effectively, a quick ground investigation report, if there isn't one, is probably going to cost you the best part of £10,000 to £20,000, depending on what it is.
Are you saying you would do that?
At risk, if the site was right and the figures were right, and depending on the outcome of that report, for example, if a vendor was happy to suggest they'd reduce the price by the issue to remediate, whether it be £1 or £100,000, that ultimately has got to come off a price, because you can't guess that. And it's such a difficult market to gauge, if I'm completely honest with you.
And do you have a rule of thumb for what you would consider a goer? Like a percentage, a margin of profitability showing in theory on paper at that stage to go, do you know what, this one adds up?
Yeah, as much as possible. I'll level with you. It's a really tricky comment to pass, really. What I would say is that the industry, you would get funding on 17-18% profit margins. Very rarely would that site work for us at that level. So ultimately it's got to be a site that works well for us, and we get offered plenty, so it's just working out which ones are the top of the cream, for example.
So would you be looking at something that can show maybe 25% at that stage, and then that there's probably going to be some contingency elements that are going to...
and certainly the resales as well have got to come into consideration. So you've got to put as much risk as you can into initial appraisal. So even if that appraisal starts at 35%, and very quickly you put the risk on, and it comes down to 22%, it's a conversation to have in the office.
And then let's say we've got a goer in front of us. the acquisition process itself, what tell us your experiences. Tell us, how do you find them, and is there any particular repeated barriers or difficulties?
Good question. I think kind of there's a number of things that people can do to go and find a site. I can't give everyone all my secrets, but the most important thing is feedback. Speak to your agents all the time. If you've got the time, there are certain things you can do to search, and certain computer programs that can help you search for those buildings, etc. But if I'm honest with you, I think for me it's wearing the sole down on your shoe, knocking on doors, and making sure the agents and the people that are dealing with all of the vendors that you want, you buy them the coffees, and take the time to go and meet them, and talk to them.
Okay, and then coming into finance. Why don't we go on to finance?
A really key topic for every developer, really. I think one of our banks has lent us in excess of 100 million so far. So I did send them a quick email earlier asking them for a bit of help on something. They are firmly entrenched with us on a number of sites, with a few more coming up, as are a couple of other of our banks that we use. So we do have a few that we kind of twist to suit.
On the equity side, do you guys have do you raise external funds for the equity side at all, or is it from within the company?
Moving forward and now, absolutely, just comes out of the equity within the firm. So it's a nice position to be in. You're always better off to borrow money from a bank to finance the build of a site.
Explain that.
Because your capital return on cash invested.
Yeah. Okay, that does make sense. Yeah.
So,
because the obvious thought initially is, on a £5 million build cost, you're looking at £500,000 worth of your profitability has gone to cost of finance.
Yeah, correct. But very quickly, you're only putting in £1 million, for example, and taking 3.5 back out.
Yeah.
Well, broad. That's not the exact figures. You can't quote me. But all of a sudden, you're not going to be putting as much in at all to get a lot more out.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
So again, those banking partners are really important, and hitting the trigger dates and everything like that, because you've got to kind of stand on the heads of terms that you agree with everybody, whether that be mains contractor or contractors down the line. But if the bank are expecting sales in by a set time, you've got to do everything you can to get them in.
So far, our gang consists of your agents, your lenders. Yeah. We're into construction.
Yeah.
At this point, our site has got its plan. It's fun. Oh no! In fact, let's go back a step.
Planning.
Yes.
So if you were lucky enough to get a site with planning, it's obviously a hell of a lot easier.
So tell me, are you getting much of that, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The market today, and I'm not sure when this gets released, but the market today is we're still seeing sites that were offered to us a year and a half, 2 years ago that haven't been sold, or they've been sold and they've fallen through, and it lands back on your desk again.
Right.
And so vendor expectations come into play.
Okay.
There's a need and a want, which is a very sales thing to say, isn't
True.
it? But if a vendor wants to sell it, great. But they might want a price that isn't achievable.
Yeah.
If they need to sell it, they've got to sell it. Yeah. So you tend to get a price that's workable for everybody.
Yeah.
So if you can get a site with full planning, it makes such a difference. It's the cost of money, the time scale to get that cash to flow through. If I'm buying a site, which I've got a few at the moment in offer stage, that don't have planning, that's I've got to put a deposit down to secure it, or I've got to put some surveys at risk.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, that could be £30,000-40,000 in surveys, risk, plus the planning costs and drawings for architects. I could be in for £100,000.
Yeah, that's the number that I'd usually see being if you have to, if you're talking about a hypothetical project, and you know nothing about it, and you say, well, what's the cost of planning? I'd throw £100,000 at it.
I think, as soon as you get into multiple units, it starts to ramp up because the surveys and everything like that start to ramp up massively. Again, if you've got to take the decision to jump on that at the stage sooner rather than later, by the time this airs, we'll have completed on a site which we committed to summer 2023. Before we had exchanged, we jumped straight into planning costs at our risk. So very quickly we were burning our capital reserve. But that meant, we motored through. There was never a point where we weren't going to exchange and complete on it. But it just meant that we've saved that 6-month time period to jump on site with planning.
What are you finding particularly obstructive in planning recently?
We could all write a book on the
I think I will.
Issues with you said that the other week. I think the dialogue and communication. I think it's probably the biggest thing that you would be helpful for a developer.
Have you found planners that are willing to meet with you quite forthcomingly and so on, or is that just a complete mythological creature?
I mean, we don't just deal with Birmingham, so we've got several councils that we've got development sites with at the moment, and some are better than others. Some haven't got as much staff, so some are understaffed. So
I heard there was, I can't remember if it was Northampton. I heard that there was a local authority that didn't have a single member of staff for a planning department for something like 9 months.
Again,
there's a period where they just didn't have a planning department.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah,
I think it's continuity as well, because we recently had a planning office. I've had it twice in the last 12 months. Planning officers change. And so all of a sudden it's like you've got to start the whole process again, or explain why you got to a decision, or why there was a thought process for that alteration or tweak. Again, sometimes can be the most infuriating thing.
And the other thing is, I find that the planning departments, and this is no attack on any individual officers or anything like that, but they don't have the necessary expertise in the department. So you end up, they're outsourcing consultants, private consultants, to look at your appraisal, your viability study, or you look at your ecology or your highways, and you're like, hang on a minute, and they're asking us to pay for their consultants' fees. So we're paying our consultants to then give in a survey or a report or something, or a statement that then they have to outsource the specialist consultant, which we have to pay those fees. And then they negotiate to tell us how much we've got to then pay to the local authority
on viability,
for off-site contributions or whatever it might be.
Viability studies are a dark art.
It is astonishing.
But look, there's a particular site that we've got at the moment which we felt we were fair. Other people didn't. And so it's a tricky conversation to weave.
I described it recently as it's like being asked by a mafia hitman to dig your own grave before he puts you in it.
I think the thing is, it's just, again, it's another shovel to be hit with. If it's not the affordable housing, or the amount of units, contribution, sills, and there's always something.
You heard of nutrient neutrality?
Yeah.
That's
well, there you are.
There's no words for it. Like what have builders and developers got to do with the historical agricultural application of the land? I wasn't a farmer. I'm not the water treatment facility. I don't know what a phosphate or a nitrate is. What am I paying for?
Well, we've got an application recently which the council came back and said, well, there's some smells from the shop down the road that you need to check. And one of our architects said, well, hang on a second, here's the original planning application from that site. And it says in the planning application for that well-known drive-through, should I say.
Right.
And it says that they should be responsible and the council should have signed off their odour strategy. So if the council haven't signed it off, it's not for us to worry about. Yeah. So all of a sudden it was like tick, quick, right, get that back to the planning officer.
Yeah.
So they've raised a question, and all of a sudden,
it's like everything is our fault.
I know. Well,
that's what
it feels like.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong. I understand. Biodiversity net gain and stuff like that. I've got no issues. Welcome it. It helps settle a site quicker and everything like that. So these are the positive things. But ultimately, to unlock some of these sites maybe a little bit more is just maybe giving something a little, or not making it quite so tricky, or engagement with the developer earlier rather than shoehorning it in at the last minute, which tends to be or feel like the case sometimes.
Okay, so we've got our site through planning.
That was easy.
It took us about half an hour.
More of those, please.
Yeah. So then we're going to add to our gang the main contractors.
Yeah.
What do you guys generally do? What's your setup? Do you JCTs, JVs?
It would usually be JCTs, design and build, something along those sort of lines. Really, we wouldn't be looking to JV anything. Really, it gets really tricky.
I've never done one.
No, it gets tricky really quickly, and then you get the age old, too many chefs and all that sort of thing. Yeah. So,
well, there's not enough in it to share, really, is there?
No, very rarely. I think what you tend to do is during that planning process, you're probably in the pocket of one or two mains contractors that can handle that scheme or development site, whether it be some houses or apartments or both, obviously. Track record, who else, what have they done for you previously? You've got a handle already on what their build costs are. So all of a sudden I'm putting that data into my appraisal to have purchased the site anyway. So very early on in that whole process, it's not just on planning that you start with that mains contractor. So I think we've got a site in particular at the moment which might be spanning over 18 metres as a threshold, so it'll hit the Building Safety Act.
Okay, so it's built. We built it. That was easy.
God almighty. That was
this
great.
Is the best development we've ever done.
If I could do a few more of these.
What's the market look like to you?
We're really proactive in our, as I said earlier, marketing wise, etc. So we start, and apartments are very different. We're not selling a house where the family might want to come and have a look at it before it's as it's finished to see what the garden's doing and everything like that. So because we're an apartment scheme, we are likely to be trying to sell that off plan.
Yes.
And the route to doing that is as much data as possible for a potential purchaser to look through. So floor plans, brochures, everything, service charge, all ironed out.
Then what do you have, like open days at like a hotel or something?
For the agents, really. Yeah. So whether it's Savills or a Knight Frank or whomever that might be.
And they'll have people come to whether it be their offices or
the show flat. So again, we'll work really hard during that marketing process to get a show flat up and running as quickly as we can. So even if it isn't plumbed in, you get a show flat.
Is that before construction of the whole structure is complete? Because
the whole building will be up.
It's up and complete, yeah?
Yeah. But really, the focus will be to get out of a marketing suite, if you've got an external marketing suite, and into an actual show flat. So someone can come in and go, that's the layout.
Yeah.
Pays dividends, because then people can commit.
What do you foresee for the next 5 years?
I think, if I'm honest with you, we've probably survived the last 3 years. Is what it feels like. 2.5 years. I expect the mortgage rates will start to soften over the next 12 to 18 months, and hopefully we'll get some of the zip back into the market.
I feel encouraged. I have a nice feeling at the moment. I don't feel miserable, like there's just it doesn't feel futile. I think it has felt for quite a while like really anxiety inducing sort of conditions. But I don't feel like that too much anymore.
It was tough last year. I think some of the incessant rate rises were a bit like, oh God, and then they stopped, and then everyone thought, didn't do anything, and then haven't done anything. So I think it'll be a while yet before you see a drop, but I think you might see one. And there was talk, wasn't there, that it might be next month, or this month rather, the Bank of England might drop. But those are the things that we look at with a fine-tooth comb,
Yes.
because that directly impacts what.
Oh, you've got to be the kind of person that's up every morning before everyone else and looking at the market and
What's going on?
Yeah, you have to do that. If you're not doing that, it's a no starter, isn't it?
I think 0.5% helps an appraisal massively.
Yeah.
So that sort of information is key, and being on top of it with the banks and who's lending at what rate,
Yes.
and all of that is really important as well.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Well, they're all sold, Sam.
Thanks ever so much.
Did we make any money?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Never enough money.
Yeah. No.
The market's good, and due diligence is the most important thing.
It's great advice. As I know, that's absolutely true. And I have to doff my cap to my mum on due diligence. There's no one like her.
Yeah, I've met your mum, so
yeah,
yes, I know.
Yeah. Yes, due diligence indeed. Well, thanks, Sam.
That's all right. No, pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
No, brilliant. Thank you ever so much.